You're welcome to today's news analysis. If you care about Nigeria, democracy, and your future, stay with me till the end. And please, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this matter. Let's go. Peter Obi has blasted the Nigerian Senate, led by Godswill Akpabio. Not quietly. Not with soft words. But with clear anger and deep concern. His reaction followed a major decision taken by the Senate that has sparked serious national debate. The Nigerian Senate has rejected proposed amendments that would have made electronic transmission of election results compulsory. Instead, lawmakers chose to retain the existing provisions of the 2022 Electoral Act. This decision was taken during a plenary session held on Wednesday, when senators considered a new bill titled An Act to Repeal the Electoral Act No. 13, 2022, and enact the Electoral Act, 2025. The bill was presented as a chance to strengthen Nigeria's electoral process, but one key proposal did not survive the debate. At the center of the controversy was a new proposed clause, known as Clause 65. This clause would have required presiding officers at polling units to transmit election results electronically in real time to the Independent National Electoral Commission's iRevi portal, immediately after completing Form EC-8A. In simple terms, results would be uploaded straight from polling units for everyone to see. The Senate rejected this clause. By doing so, the lawmakers chose to keep the 2022 framework, which does not make electronic transmission mandatory. Under the retained system, results are still completed manually. They are written out, signed, stamped, and shared with party agents and security personnel at the polling unit. The results are announced on the spot and then transferred in a manner as prescribed by the Commission, without any clear legal requirement that they must be sent electronically. For Peter Obi, this choice sends a troubling message. He says elections should be clear, fast, and trusted. When results depend heavily on manual handling and undefined transfer methods, he argues, it creates room for doubt. It weakens public confidence and raises old fears that Nigerians have struggled with for years. According to him, this is not about opposing institutions or attacking individuals. It is about protecting the credibility of elections. He believes that when technology exists to make the process more open, refusing to use it fully looks like a step backward rather than progress. The Senate's decisions did not stop with result transmission. Lawmakers also rejected another proposed amendment, Clause 47, which sought to allow electronically generated voter identification for accreditation. This would have included options like downloadable voter cards with QR codes that could be verified digitally. The idea was to modernize voter identification and reduce dependence on physical cards alone. That proposal was also voted down. As a result, the requirement for voters to present a physical permanent voter's card remains firmly in place. While the Senate upheld the continued use of the bimodal voter accreditation system, known as BVAS, or any other device approved by Inec for verification, the door was closed on digital voter cards. Peter Obi sees a pattern in these decisions. He argues that democracy thrives on trust, and trust grows when systems are open and verifiable. In his view, rejecting tools that promote transparency while holding onto systems that have caused controversy in the past does not inspire confidence among voters. He has warned that democracy is not only about voting on election day. It is also about how those votes are counted, moved, and announced. Any gap in that chain, he says, can damage the entire process. Supporters of the Senate's position argue that the existing law already gives Inec the power to decide how results are transmitted. They insist that flexibility is important and that the Commission should not be boxed in by strict legal language. But critics, including Peter Obi, counter that flexibility without firm safeguards often benefits the powerful, not the people. They say clear rules protect voters, reduce confusion, and limit manipulation. For Obi, the rejection of compulsory electronic transmission represents a missed opportunity to rebuild public trust after years of disputed elections and legal battles. He believes Nigerians deserve a system where results are not just announced, but clearly seen and verified in real time. This is why his response has been strong. He insists that democracy must move forward, not sideways. In a country where citizens already struggle with confidence in public institutions, every decision about elections carries heavy weight. And for many Nigerians watching closely, this Senate vote has raised hard questions about the direction of the nation's democratic journey. This week has been especially busy for Peter Obi as he intensified his direct engagement with residents of Abuja, Nigeria's capital territory. Rather than limiting his activities to press statements or political meetings, he chose to move through communities and speak directly with the people who live there. According to him, leadership is not only about making policies or issuing orders. It is about listening, understanding daily struggles, and responding to real needs. His visits come ahead of the local government area council election scheduled for February 21 in the Federal Capital Territory. Peter Obi has described the poll as an important opportunity to connect with voters and seek support for his party's candidates across the 6 area councils. He believes local government elections matter because they affect people's daily lives more directly than many national decisions. Over the past few days, he traveled across several parts of the FCT, including rural communities in Abuja, Wike, and surrounding areas. These visits were not framed as campaign rallies filled with loud speeches. Instead, they focused on observation, dialogue, and listening. He met community leaders, elders, and residents to better understand the challenges they face and how government policies affect them on the ground. What he encountered, he said, was deeply concerning. Despite Abuja being the seat of power and the face of the nation, many communities within the territory still lack basic services. Roads are poor, schools are either inadequate or non-functional, and access to healthcare remains limited for many families. For him, this raises serious questions about national priorities. Peter Obi pointed out that the Federal Capital Territory is often presented as a model for development in Nigeria. Yet, in several of the villages he visited, the reality did not match that image. He described the situation as unacceptable, especially when one considers what conditions may look like in more remote parts of the country. Education was one of the major issues raised during his engagements. Although basic education is officially described as free and compulsory, many schools in these communities lack proper classrooms, teaching materials, and qualified staff. In some areas, children still study in overcrowded or poorly maintained environments. According to Obi, this directly affects the future of the country because education is the foundation of growth and stability. Healthcare was another major concern. While free primary healthcare is often promised, many communities do not have functional health centers. Some facilities lack basic equipment, while others are simply too far for residents to access easily. Peter Obi noted that for many families, seeking medical care still involves long travel and high costs, even within the nation's capital. During his meetings with community leaders, he said he listened to complaints that have been repeated for years without lasting solutions. These leaders spoke about abandoned projects, unfulfilled promises, and a sense of neglect. Obi stressed that these issues are not new, and that makes them even more troubling. Drawing from his experience as a former governor, he acknowledged that no administration can fix every problem overnight. However, he emphasized that the absence of clear commitment and prioritization is what truly worries him. According to him, progress begins when leaders decide that education and healthcare are not optional expenses but essential investments. He also highlighted the role of local government councils in addressing these problems. In his view, strong and responsive local councils are critical to delivering basic services. This is why he has been actively encouraging residents to participate in the upcoming council elections and support candidates who understand grassroots needs. Peter Obi's message during these visits was consistent. He urged citizens not to see governance as something distant or abstract. He encouraged them to hold leaders accountable and to demand better use of public resources. He argued that when communities are ignored, national development becomes uneven and fragile. He also linked these grassroots challenges to broader national issues, including trust in government and democratic participation. When people see their basic needs neglected, he said, they lose faith in institutions. That loss of trust, he warned, can weaken democracy itself. Observers note that Obi's approach reflects a focus on data, observation, and direct engagement rather than rhetoric. By moving through villages and speaking directly with residents, he is attempting to ground political discussion in lived experience rather than abstract promises. As the February 21 elections approach, attention is likely to remain on how political leaders engage with local issues in the FCT. For many residents, the concerns raised during these visits reflect long-standing frustrations that go beyond one election cycle. Peter Obi maintains that Nigeria can do better, starting from its capital. He insists that development should be visible in people's daily lives, not just in official reports or press releases. In his view, a nation that truly values its citizens must begin by ensuring access to education, healthcare, and basic services, especially in areas that are supposed to represent the country at its best. The issues raised by Peter Obi have continued to draw national attention, not only because of who raised them, but because of what they represent for Nigeria's democratic future. At the heart of his message is a warning that democracy cannot survive without trust, and trust cannot exist where systems appear weak, unclear, or unfair. According to Obi, the debate over electronic transmission of election results is not a technical argument meant for lawyers or lawmakers alone. It is a public issue that affects every voter. When citizens do not clearly see how their votes move from the polling unit to the final declaration, doubt sets in. Over time, that doubt can turn into anger, fear, or complete withdrawal from the political process. He has stressed that democracy works best when people believe their participation matters. For him, any system that allows delays, confusion, or secrecy around election results threatens that belief. He argues that elections should not only be free and fair, but also appear free and fair to the average citizen watching from home. Peter Obi has also linked electoral transparency to national unity. Nigeria is a diverse country with deep political, ethnic, and regional differences. In such a setting, elections play a critical role in holding the nation together. When the process is trusted, people are more willing to accept outcomes, even when their preferred candidates lose. When trust is absent, every result becomes a source of tension. He has cautioned that repeated disputes over elections weaken institutions and distract the country from pressing issues such as poverty, insecurity, and unemployment. According to him, a nation cannot keep moving forward while constantly fighting over the credibility of its own democratic process. Beyond elections, Obi's message speaks to leadership responsibility. He has argued that leaders must think beyond immediate political advantage and consider long-term national impact. Decisions made today, he says, shape public confidence for years to come. Once trust is broken, rebuilding it becomes far more difficult. He has also addressed the role of citizens in sustaining democracy. While leaders carry great responsibility, Obi insists that voters must remain engaged, informed, and vocal. Democracy, in his view, is not a one-day event held during elections. It is an ongoing process that requires constant attention and participation. In several of his public remarks, he has encouraged Nigerians not to give in to frustration or apathy. He acknowledges that many people feel tired and disappointed after years of unmet expectations. However, he warns that silence and withdrawal only allow poor systems to continue unchallenged. Obi has emphasized peaceful civic engagement as the path forward. He has called on citizens to express their concerns through lawful means, public dialogue, and active participation in governance. According to him, real change comes when people consistently demand accountability and refuse to accept excuses for failure. He has also drawn attention to the importance of institutions such as Inec, the judiciary, and the legislature. For democracy to function properly, he says, these bodies must operate independently and in the public interest. Any perception that institutions are influenced by politics or personal interests can damage their credibility. The former governor has repeatedly stated that Nigeria has the talent, resources, and population needed to succeed. What is missing, in his view, is disciplined leadership and a strong commitment to doing things the right way. He believes that clear rules, transparent systems, and honest leadership can gradually restore faith in the country's democratic process. As public debate continues, analysts note that Obi's statements reflect a broader concern shared by many Nigerians. The demand for transparency, accountability, and fairness has grown stronger, especially among young voters. These citizens are more informed, more connected, and less willing to accept systems that do not make sense to them. Looking ahead, Obi has urged political leaders to treat every election as an opportunity to strengthen, rather than weaken, national unity. He insists that democracy should reduce tension, not create it. When elections are credible, leaders gain legitimacy and the nation gains stability. He has concluded that Nigeria stands at an important crossroads. The choices made by lawmakers, institutions, and citizens today will determine the quality of governance tomorrow. According to him, the country must decide whether it wants a democracy built on clarity and trust or one weighed down by doubt and suspicion. For Peter Obi, the path forward is clear. Nigeria must commit to transparent processes, responsive leadership, and active citizenship. Only then, he believes, can democracy truly serve the people and help the nation move toward lasting progress and shared confidence in its future. This moment goes beyond politics or party lines. It speaks to the kind of country Nigeria is becoming and the standards it is willing to defend. Decisions taken today will shape public trust for years, not weeks. When systems are unclear, confidence fades. When leadership avoids transparency, unity weakens. Nigerians are watching closely, weighing actions against promises. Democracy survives not by chance, but by deliberate choices that protect fairness and credibility. The direction set now will determine whether citizens feel included or ignored. History will not focus on intentions, but on outcomes and the courage to do what is right.